Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Central Synagogue. Welcome to our program. I'm Rabbi Sarah Berman. I'm the Director of Adult Education here at Central Synagogue. Tonight's program wouldn't have come together without our program manager, Marina Nebro, who we never get to thank. She's in the room. We get to thank her. Tonight's program, like so many that we've presented over the last 7 weeks, is another on the list of the unimaginable. People telling stories, sharing their stories with us of experiences that are almost impossible to fathom. We're here to bear witness. We're here to listen. We're here to ask questions. And we're here to build relationships with these three amazing women who are joining us. I'm going to leave it to my colleague and friend, Michal Abramov, our JAFI Shlicha, our Israel emissary, who has also been an incredible partner over, her whole time here, but especially these last horrible weeks. Michal has brought so much to our community, helping us stay connected to Israel in so many important ways, and will continue to do so over the coming weeks and months together. So tonight's program, we get to hear from three incredible women who are visiting New York for a very short period of time. We're incredibly lucky to have them here with us. This exists within our whole arc of Israel programming, trying to keep everybody informed and connected over this time of difficulties. And so tonight, we welcome first Michal Abramov. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much, Rabbi Berman, and of course, Marina. And thank you all for being here tonight in person. It's been a very overwhelming time, and especially being an Israeli here in New York. I've just been in awe by Central and Central's community for showing up today. And I am incredibly honored to have the ability to be in conversation with our three honored guests, who each one of them not only is an incredible woman who has an incredible story, but are also doing so much right now and even before October 7th. And we're hoping that today you'll get to know them better. Right? You'll get to know them, you'll get to know their stories, hear their stories, ask their questions, and maybe hear a bit more about what they do and how they do it. I'd like to introduce first Colonel Tal Rosin. Colonel Tal Rosin currently manages the contact and partnership at the Israeli Coalition for Trauma. She has lots of background, and you can see a lot. You can go also to our website and see the full bio, and she will tell a bit more about herself. Next to her, we have Dr. Kochav Elkayam, a specialist in international law, gender, and protection of human rights. And lastly, we have Anat Marla, who currently serves as director of the Society and Community Division of the Kibbutz movement. And instead of me reading their bios, I'll ask each of them to introduce themselves. If you can start in really 1 or 2 sentences, who you are. Yes, 2 sentences, 2 sentences. Don't worry, we have a lot of questions and we'll get into a lot, but just to start us off, who you are, what do you do, a little bit. Anat, would you like to start?
So hi, good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming. Thrilled to be here, and I'm excited that I have a few family members who live in New York and are here. Thank you for coming. So as Michal said, my name is Anat Marla, and I live on Kibbutz Nirim, which is a kibbutz on the Gaza border. I'm going to talk a little bit about it later in the evening. But so my day job before October 7th was working for the Kibbutz movement, which is an umbrella organization working with all the kibbutzim in Israel. But since October 8th, I've been serving as chairwoman of Kibbutz Nirim. We've been evacuated to Eilat, so we run a small kibbutz in a hotel in Eilat. And this is my mission today, and I guess in the coming month and year, that's it.
Great, thank you. And of course, we'll hear more, and we'll move next to Kochav. If you can share a bit.
Hi, good evening, everyone. First of all, we were so exhausted. We had such a long day. So excuse me if I say things that are not really do not really make sense, but we'll try. Yes, nothing makes sense today. So we're good, actually. So I'm an international law and human rights professor. I did my PhD at Penn Law. I lived in Philly for 5 years with my family. I'm a mother of 4 kids. We live in Modi'in. I also teach feminist theory. I teach Hebrew U at Hebrew U and Reichman University. I want to say that I also teach climate justice, but just it seems so far from our reality today. And since October 7th, I'm the chair of the Civil Commission on the Crimes Committed by Hamas against women and children. This task that we've been giving is one of the most horrible tasks that I couldn't have imagined doing that, really documenting every piece of information about what happened to women, creating an archives under the most compelling EU standards, and really advocating for recognition at the among the international community and UN agencies that are refusing to really recognize what happened to women. We saw a development yesterday after weeks, I can say after weeks of advocacy work. I didn't sleep one night since the 7th of October properly, so yes, so that's me, and nice to meet you, and thank you for coming.
Thank you very much. We have microphones for everyone. We make sure. Yes, so Tal? Just click it up.
No.
Yeah, there you go.
Good evening. I'm Tal Rosin. My English is a little bit broken. And it's when I go to Hebrew, Michal, help me. I am very happy to be here today. I'm living in Ashkelon. I have 2 sons. The bigger is in the Navy, Israeli Army. I was 26 years in the IDF, in the Home Front Command, and I am an emergency woman. all I do in 20 years, before 20 years, it was how to manage the emergency in Israel and the IDF, the population in Israel, local authority, and organization in Israel. And nowadays, I'm in the ITC, in the Israeli Trauma Coalition, that build the Resilience Center in Israel and help the helpers, the Zaka, the first responders, and help the people, kids, adults, in that days that if you ask me how many Israelis is in trauma today, I will say the 9 million, but it's very big number, but all Israelis now is in afraid and care each other, and it's a very challenging reality, something like that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I want to start by taking us back, because each one of you already kind of addressed the change after October 7th, but I do want to take you back to that day. If you can share a bit, where were you, how you experienced? Of course, I know some of this might be a little difficult or hard to either share or to hear, so as you feel comfortable, and I think for equality, we'll start with Tal. If you can share with us a bit, that day, October 7th, where were you, what you went through?
The lucky one, yeah. Early in the morning, 6:30, my big son come from a party, And when he come from the party in the morning, it was an alarm in Ashkelon, and we go to the room shelter, and when we go out, we say, okay, it's the one alarm, it's okay from us, it's a regular. And we go to bed, and there another, and another one, and after an hour, it's called my, my commander, and they tell me to come to the IDF, to Home Front Command, or my bigger one, go to IDF, to the army, and my husband is out of country, and I have another son, 16 years old, that go to the family in Petah Tikva. And in 7th October, all the family was in all tafkid?
In positions.
All positions that we was. That's my 7th October.
Thank you so much for sharing. I'm just going to help because I think we're going to hear about this, the normalcy of the rocket fire, right? That's kind of, we hear about it. We just thought it was a normal day of rocket fire, which is something that we've been hearing a lot. And also the fact that your family was scattered, right? Everyone was in different places and sort of everyone was called to different locations. Thank you. Kochav, could you share?
So difficult. First of all, I want to say that what I understand now is that we're not only 9 million Israelis that were traumatized, we are millions of Jews traumatized. I came here, I'm speaking with Jewish leaders, and I'm just shocked of the existential threat that people feel, of the fear that you all feel here outside of Israel. And I'm just, I want to express also, I want to say solidarity with what you feel as well. I think this is a trauma that is going to stay with us for generations. So that's about that. 7th of October. This was a very difficult day. I was actually with my father. He was at the hospital. He was hospitalized with a sickness. And I came very early in the morning to Sheba Hospital to be with him. And on the way, I saw traffic. It was morning time, Shabbat. It was also a holiday. Sorry. So I was shocked to see traffic in front of the hospital, and I got inside, and I took care of my father, and we were sitting in front of the news. It was just very surreal. We started seeing that people are calling the news journalists, asking them, please come and save us, begging that someone will come to get them. They're with their babies, with children, we started also getting images of what Hamas was broadcasting. And so it was very difficult to know that we are in this situation. It was unbelievable. It's something that you can't comprehend. You can't understand, is this really happening in the country right now? People are closing at their shelters, hearing terrorists outside their homes, burning their homes. Really, the witnesses and the soldiers calling their parents, telling them that they are being shot at and killed. So everything was live. It was like a very long nightmare. And as an international law expert, hearing about seeing the Israelis, women, children, elderly people, people with disabilities, really babies dragged into Gaza, of course, we understood very quickly that we are seeing against our eyes crimes against humanity and war crimes in the most horrific ways possible. And I knew that the magnitude of this event is not national. It's not a national event. It's an international catastrophe, I want to say. So that's about how I saw the 7th of October.
Thank you. Thank you. Anat?
Okay. So on October 7th, we were home in Nirim. We were sleeping when the red color alert went off. It's about 6:30 in the morning. And as Tal was saying, you know, we're used to having these alerts once every, I don't know, few months. But we ran to the safe room. We woke up the kids. I have 2 kids. One is 15 and the other is 12. So me and my husband, we, you know, dragged them from their beds because they were, you know, just wanted to keep sleeping. And at first we were sure, you know, it's going to be over very quickly. But the rockets kept being fired. We kept hearing like the alert going off again and again. And shortly afterwards, I think in about 5 or 10 minutes, we started hearing gunfire very close to our home, inside the kibbutz, which is something I've never heard before. It's, you know, it's unimaginable. It's not something you think could happen. So guns blasting, and people on the kibbutz WhatsApp chat are starting to write, you know, we're hearing gunfire. Do you also hear gunfire? And then shortly after that, we heard shouts in Arabic, like many men shouting, calling to each other just, you know, outside our window. My husband was, I don't know, you know, stroke of luck. He was smart enough to, like, in these few minutes, go outside of the safe room, close all the curtains of like the house. We closed, we shut down the lights. We turned off the air conditioner, which was on. We told the kids, okay, now we have to keep very quiet. We all sat in darkness. And because you can't, it's impossible to lock the doors of the safe room, I guess you heard, for safety reasons, which is now sounds absurd. So we had to sit right on, like next to the door, clutching to the door handle, which is what my husband did for 8 hours. He just sat there. And we spent 8 hours in the safe room. And like reports starting to pour in through the WhatsApp, both from people in the kibbutz saying there are terrorists inside our house. Houses were put on fire. We had families in the safe room while their house was being burnt down, with kids, with babies. And I'm also on, because of my position, I'm also on a WhatsApp chat with people from other kibbutzim in the regional council. And I start reading people saying that there are terrorists in their kibbutzim as well, shooting down, entering houses, shooting down families, kidnapping people. As Kochav was saying, you know, you can't, you read it, but you can't believe it. You can't believe it's happening, and it's happening to you. At some point, I started thinking, okay, if they get in the house, how am I going to protect my kids? Really, you know, thinking of, it's ridiculous to think now, but, you know, maybe we can push something against the door to keep it, you know, locked, or I'm going to hide the kids behind the bed. By the way, a lot of people did it. right? Kids were hidden under beds or in the closet for many, many hours. So at about, I think, 1:30, it was the first time, and what stuck with me most is people were desperately crying for help, and no one responded, no one came. That was the most difficult part. At about 1:30, soldiers were first arrived in the kibbutz. It took them several hours to go. They went door to door, neighborhood to neighborhood, to clear the kibbutz from terrorists. So they first arrived at our house at about 2:30 p.m., but we had to stay in. They just told us, okay, this neighborhood has been cleared, but you have to stay inside. Then about 3 hours later, we were all the people in the kibbutz were gathered to a central location in the kibbutz. Really from babies who have just been born to people close to 100, all sitting together on the floor, It was the most surreal night of my life. We spent the night there. Soldiers surrounding the perimeter of this location because there were still apparently terrorists in the kibbutz. And we had to wait until late or early in the afternoon the next day to be taken out of the kibbutz with buses and military cover to go to Eilat. So in Irim, 5 people were murdered and another 5 were taken hostage into Gaza, which are small numbers in comparison to our neighbors in Kibbutz Nir Oz, which I guess you've heard about it, the terrible numbers there. But dozens of houses burned down. Really, the kibbutz, I'll show you pictures later. So this was my
Your October 7th. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Thank you so much for sharing and being able to say all these words. Thank you to all 3 of you. I mean, as all of you were saying, we were all affected in a different way. Some sheltering in place for 8 hours, or being called for duty, or even just sitting and watching the television. But also, we were all affected in one way or another. And my question, and I would like to start with Anat, is a bit about coping. Right, you talk about that the entire kibbutz moved to a hotel in Eilat, which you still are in the hotel in Eilat. If you can tell us a bit about you, the kibbutz, your family, and sort of coping with post-October 7th and what has happened.
Yeah. Okay, so I think maybe to start off with something positive. If something like this happens to you, it's best to be part of a community. We were evacuated to a hotel in Eilat. We've been there for almost 8 weeks, but we're together, and we have very, very stable and strong mechanisms to organize ourselves. And we immediately went into action and built really a very good infrastructure to keep community life. So from day 2, we had educational programs for the kids in all ages, and then activities for the elderly. We, of course, immediately we set up Chosen, a resilience center with therapy being given, it was really first, how do you say, Ezra Rishona?
First aid.
First aid, yeah. Mental health aid, because we were all, as you can imagine, deeply, deeply traumatized. Both, kids, adults, everyone. and we soon after we started like volunteering in the hotel, outside the hotel, because as Tal will tell you, that one of the keys to building resilience is to be active or being proactive and finding something meaningful to do and assist others. So we realized that we have to give as many people as possible the opportunity to be active and do something for the community or outside the community. So really that's what we've been doing. We have a small kibbutz in Eilat. Really, I mean, it's like a cliche, but I mean, despite this horrendous thing that's happened to us, there are also a lot of opportunities that are emerging, and I see the power or like the strength of people, and I have to say, especially women. Our delegation is a delegation of women, and we talk a lot about what women are doing now in general, but specifically now. And our community is based on female leadership, women leadership. I think women have a very unique capacity to hold and see like the needs, the very, very different needs of people, especially in a time like this, and also be flexible, show empathy. That's us, and maybe we're also already working on the next stage, because we're not going to be staying in the hotel for much longer. It's impossible. We're planning to move the kibbutz to Be'er Sheva. Yeah, it's going to be an urban kibbutz. It's going to be an interesting experiment. And of course, we're also already working on, or have started working on, rebuilding the kibbutz, and so that's a big challenge.
That's amazing. And I think you said it in the beginning that you sort of took over the leadership of the kibbutz, and I think we don't talk about it a lot, right? We talk about October 7th, we talk about the atrocities, but I mean, we talk about the hostages, we talk about the people who are murdered, but there are people who are living and are dealing, and we know someone needs to take that leadership role, and we really very much appreciate you and your leadership role after this. And you talked about resilience, and I think this is a word that we've been using a lot about Israelis in general, but also specifically about October 7th. And I was actually hoping, Tal, if you can share with us, as sort of your specialties, a bit about Israeli resilience in general. I would also like to hear about your personal resilience, because I know you've dealt with a lot. But just, I mean, in general, how are Israelis coping with this trauma? Like, what is in place? I know this is a really, really big question, and we don't have much time, but if you can give us a bit of a sort of a picture of what is happening in Israeli society right now.
I start with theoretical something. The person's emergency perception consists of person, character, place of residence, thank you, the influence of community, like Anat say, past experience, and age. That means that everyone, it's very different coping and a very different resilience. Resilience is like a
spring.
Like a spring. It's always doing like that. The human being, when it's something is, we care about something or worry about something, and the world, it's not very clear. We always doing like this movement, yeah. And I think the Israeli community now, or the citizen in the Israel, it's very different. When Anat talk, I always think about the kibbutzim that now it's in Eilat and Yam HaMelach and Jerusalem and Tel Aviv, all over the place, and they will keep all the time their community, their children, and have always to do things. Doing is very strong things to that shomer alai, help myself.
It protects you.
Protect you. Doing is protect the human being. Every time you in emergency, no matter what is the emergency, it was a war or earthquake or something like that. And if I was in Ashkelon, I was in Ramle, in IDF, but the Israeli in Ashkelon, it's different that the citizen in the kibbutzim. Ofakim, Netivot, it stay in Ofakim and Netivot that day. And the trauma in his house was always... אני אעבור לעברית רגע, בסדר?
No problem. I'm going to simultaneously translate, so Tal can speak comfortably.
השוני בחוסן שונה בין האזורים, כמו שהתחלתי להגיד, ואדם שנמצא עכשיו במקום אחר והוא התפנה, שונה מאופקים ונתיבות ואשקלון, ובעצם מעגלי הפגיעה הם מאוד מאוד שונים בין אחד לשני, ולכן יכולת ההתמודדות היא מאוד מאוד שונה.
So basically, when we're staying on the Gaza envelope, we see that there's a big difference between kibbutzim communities, small communities like Anat's community, versus the cities, right? We have cities like Ashkelon, Netivot, Sderot, Ofakim, that don't have the same sort of community building, and we see that their resilience in their dealing with trauma is very different, and also what's happened afterwards, right? A lot of, like Anat said, a lot of the kibbutzim have moved together as a community to different locations versus people in some of the cities. I know about Sderot, that there are still people living currently in Sderot, but they didn't move as a community to somewhere else. And that really affects people's ability to deal with trauma, to create resilience. And then, sorry, I forgot, the last part that she said is also that means that our dealing, right, our helping them is completely different mechanisms of how can we deal with their resilience and trauma.
וכל בעצם מדינת ישראל היום נמצאת במעגלי פגיעות שונים. כלומר, גם אלה שהיו במסיבת נובה, the party there, בעצם הם היו מתל אביב והם היו מירושלים, ובעצם מעגלי הפגיעה הם בכל מדינת ישראל. ויש גם מפונים מהצפון. כלומר, גם את זה צריך להגיד. וכל אחד מתמודד עם זה אחרת, וכמו שאמרתי, זה תלוי בניסיון הקודם, בגיל ובתפיסת חירום של כל אדם.
Okay, so Tal is actually highlighting some of the things that we actually haven't spoken about, but the fact that we talk about the circle of injury, the circle of trauma, right? And the effect of the trauma, and that there's a lot of different levels to it. Like if we think about the Nova Party, the music festival, a lot of these kids are not from the Gaza envelope. They're from Tel Aviv, from Jerusalem. What did they return to if they survived? Tal also mentioned the northern border, which was also evacuated. And we don't talk a lot about the northern border that was also evacuated. And they have different communities and different experiences and different, again, circles of trauma that they need to deal with, as well as the rest of the country, right? Everyone, one of the things that actually, as you were thinking about, some of the hostages are not from these kibbutzim. They have family members from the kibbutzim, but now when they were released back to their cities or towns across Israel, and we see that there's different levels of trauma and different levels that we have to deal with.
אני אגיד עוד דבר אחד, אני חושבת אולי שניים. אני חושבת שהדבר הראשון שהוא הכי חשוב בהתמודדות, חוץ מ-doing, חוץ מלעשות דברים, זה השגרה. לחזור לשגרה עד כמה שניתן, גם אם היא מאוד מאוד קשה. To be a routine בצורה...
So, לפני דבר שתיים. So, basically two more things, and here's the first. That one of the things that's very important with resilience and sort of dealing with trauma is not only being in doing, as Tal was speaking of, and also Anat, about doing something, but also creating routine. And how do we recreate routine post October 7th? I mean, I don't know. I don't have a routine yet.
Go to school, do something that you're always doing. It's protect.
Maintaining routine. Maintaining routine, yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
And
the
the
second
optimistic, I want to say something optimistic, that the narrative of hope, it's the very, the important things about we dealing with resilience, and I all the time, and Kochav and I talk about it before we came here, that the hope build resilience.
Wow, thank you so much for saying this. And I think when we talk about trauma and we talk about resilience, one of the things that you kept repeating also from our reading, that it really differentiates between age, location, I'm assuming gender as well, experiences. And that with that, I kind of want to go to Kochav. I'm sorry, I'm gonna give you a big question, a big question of human rights and war crimes since October 7th, and specifically violence against women and against children, which I know is your specialty. And we do know from what Tal said, that the resilience in these different groups is very different. And also, Anat, as you mentioned, the women leadership and the ability to sort of stand up. But I'm going to give this to you, Kochav, as a kind of an open question, because I think you can say so much, so much. And I think anything that you say, we'll just, listen to you and hope to hear. But I do think, and I'm going to mention at this time that we know on Monday there is a protest being organized in front of the UN to talk about the violence against women and to protest there. Yeah, so if you can speak about so please, you can go for it. Just make sure your microphone is on so we can all hear you.
Of course. I'll speak at the protest itself. So.
Oh, you're going to be at the protest.
Yes.
So please do join us at the protest
Yes.
on Monday to hear again from Kochav. Yes, but please.
Thank you so much. First of all, I wanted to say about what you said about routine, that everybody told me, Kochav, are you getting psychological treatment? Are you getting help? Because we were exposed to very difficult content very soon. And I took upon myself to write a legal report. And if we have lawyers here, you know how you need to put references to every sentence. I didn't want to say anything that, God forbid, will damage our credibility. I had 160 law professors, international law professors from around the world, joining the letter, including the head of the Human Rights Committee at the UN, former head, Professor Yuval Shani. And so I felt the responsibility very quickly to watch the content, to watch videos, to get images, to document everything, and to add references so they wouldn't think that we're lying. It's just, it's so crazy thinking about it now, because it's the most documented atrocity humanity has known. And so the fact that we felt the urge to prove it, it's really, today, looking back, it's really crazy. So I was saying that people ask me, have you had help? And of course, we didn't want to have help. I don't want to share now what I know. It's terrible. I don't want to open this. I can't. I have this bigger role at the moment that I need to function. And so what I discovered, eventually I got help. Yeah. And so what was interesting is that she told me, we don't have to speak about everything you know. And it was very important. But we need to speak about your well-being, about your routines. And I found out that I was really neglecting the most basic routine, even brushing my teeth in the morning. I told her I'm brushing it around noon because it's crazy. So I started with that, getting back to like the most basic routine that I just found out. It was really striking to me to understand that I'm not keeping, I don't know, very basic needs. So that kept me stronger again. And I want to say about hope, maybe I'll finish with the hope thing, or I don't know if I'm very hopeful. So you asked a big question about human rights in these atrocities.
I don't expect you to answer everything, and I do also want to encourage everyone here. Kochav has spoken in many other places and has given a lot of information about human rights, but we really want to hear your perspective and as much as you can share with us at this moment.
Yeah, of course. I'll just share what we did. Maybe I'll start. I want to just, I'm speaking freely if that's okay. That at the moment, as an international law and human rights advocate, I feel very disappointed, very even betrayed by international community, by UN agencies. Once I saw that they're not responding, and when I say responding, I mean really very initially, just reporting what happened on the 7th of October. We saw such horrible crimes, and I knew that the Israeli public is not exposed to what happened. They can't, right? They have bodies on the streets that were already broadcasted probably to you, because I was getting information from foreign media, but the Israeli didn't know that. As I said, I felt like I know too much too soon. Oh, God. And so I was talking with my colleagues, how come they're not reporting it? Just reporting. I'm not even talking about condemning the crimes and expressing solidarity with a country that just experienced such a horrific terrorist attack. People were burned. I don't want, you know everything that happened. So that was crazy. And what I did is just I gathered a group of experts, legal experts, internationally known, and I told them, let's write this report, let's get them to know what happened, and we wrote a civil petition, and we wrote feminist organization petitions, just feminist organization in Israel that will share information they'll hear from us, they'll probably do something about human rights, about women's rights, about children's rights. And I'm really sorry to say that they haven't, for weeks, till now. They haven't recognized. We saw just yesterday a recognition, but I don't want to, I'll say a few words about that, what happens when you report something weeks after. And so, anyway, the understanding that they're not going to report this, or it's just they're keeping silent, really hit me, I think. I said they're destroying the international system, that they are destroying everything we worked for decades. And I'm not feeling that I can even be an international law professor next semester even. What am I going to teach? I teach international law with such passion and enthusiasm. And they took it from me. So that was that. And I spoke before the UN committee, the CEDAW committee. It's the committee for the elimination of discrimination against women. I told the members of the committee that they can't be ignoring Israeli women and crimes committed against Israeli women, because we know as women that we're not being believed, right? Even in individual rape cases or in individual crimes committed against women, women usually do not report, usually do not get help. And when they do, we as feminists, we believe. First, we believe. And I told them the same denial mechanism that are being inflicted on women in the individual level are now inflicted on us collectively. And I asked them, no, it's okay. I asked them really the question, I told them the question that is haunting me is there international law for Israeli women? Is it going to protect us? And are Israeli women human? It's just really, I told them that their silence is not only an insult or betrayal, it's also fueling hatred campaigns. You all felt it. I told them I'm worried. I'm worried about my family that lives here in the States. I'm worried about my students, my colleagues. My students asked me, what can we do to help you? And they live here in the States, some of them. I told them, I don't know, just keep safe. I'm not sure that you want to share the information that I'm advocating for. So that's about that angle. And so I started saying that we also started, when I gathered this group, it wasn't a commission, a civil commission, it was just a group of experts. But then very quickly we started getting a lot of information. We started getting, people were sending us, before I spoke in front of the UN, for instance, many in Israel felt the urge, Kochav, have you heard about that? Kochav, have you heard about this case? It was really awful. People sent me videos in the middle of the night. I learned to protect myself because it's such difficult, as I said, content. So we understood that we became a source of information, a reliable source of what happened to women. And so we understood that our mission is much greater than just raising awareness among international bodies, and we understood that we have to document all the information that we get. We have to create an archive. I have to say that we are also guiding the Israeli authorities. They didn't believe at first, or at least they needed a lot of help. They didn't treat the scene as crime scene. They were really very worried initially about protecting people, saving them from these places, collecting the bodies. And so we helped them, guiding them how to investigate sexual assaults, how to investigate these issues, how to perform trauma-based investigation, specifically related to crimes committed against women, because even first responders, it's difficult for them. Even the people that collected the bodies in the situation that they were very much influenced. Me and Tal were talking about it yesterday. I can say that we got, maybe very quickly, we got information first from first responders that got to the scene. Then we started to get information from the morgue, from the people who treated the bodies, and specifically the bodies of women. And then we got information from survivors, and so we started really treating every piece of information with, I'm not sure how to say it, Khardat Kodesh.
A holy anxiety, right? Like it's so sacred.
Exactly.
It's so sacred that you have to deal with it as if you're dealing with something sanctimonious.
Exactly, because we knew we need to be the voice of these women. We need to be the voice of those who cannot speak, or maybe because they were murdered, or just because they cannot speak about what happened to them. And we know that, I'm telling journalists, I became a celebrity among all the international foreign media. BBC, CNN, all are connecting us, and it became really crazy. But I told them, I don't care if it's enough for you to cover the story. For me, even if it's not going to be enough for a local magazine, I'm going to keep the information, because maybe in 5 years, we'll get another piece of information and things will collect. And I see this really as a ruined puzzle, maybe a burnt one, that I have this image in my head that we're collecting pieces of puzzles that are broken, that are torn, and that we need very carefully to put together. So that's about that. And I want to talk about hope, just very quickly.
Yes, please.
I
Please,
told
we need
Tal-
some hope. Yes.
Yes. So we've heard a lot of criticism about criticism of feminist organizations that were keeping silent or not responding. And I want to say that very early we met with a prominent international figure who really, what she did, she documented war crimes in other areas of the world. She defined war crimes. And so we got a meeting with her on Zoom. She lives here in the States. And we were very anxious. Who are we? What is she going to say? We were very prepared with the details of what happened, what we know. I was, my friends, my colleagues, some of them are really prominent professors. We sat there really tense, and then she got on, and she said, I know you've been through hell. I know, and I hope you're okay, and how can I be of help? This must be so hard. And she was amazing. We all started crying. And this started a whole different conversation because it wasn't about proving. We were starting to share with her. As I said, I have 4 kids, and I was able to share with her the existential fear, the plan that I have in my head. What am I going to do when someone gets in the house? I have a plan that I'm going to put the baby in the closet. I'm going to put the other 2 under the bed. And the older one, I'm just, there's another hiding place. And it's just to explain the trauma that we all feel. And we talk about the weaponization of our society. Everybody in Israel are getting weapons. Even here in the United States, my brother lives in San Diego, and he's like, I'm going to get a weapon. And my brother is the most nerd person you. And I'm, as a feminist, I'm always advocated against guns, especially because of women and children and the fact that they are the first to be hurt of this. And I told my husband, please get a gun. And I was able to share with her, this is against everything I believe. So anyway, the fact that she believed gave me hope that others would believe and that others would recognize it and that we might be able to rebuild.
Wow. Thank you so much for sharing that, and thank you so much for ending with the hope. And I think this is something that a lot of members have been asking me, and I feel like a lot of Americans, they keep asking, what can we do? What can we do? And I think giving that hope, being the fact that we have a voice that we can, listen to, and we can be there and we can hear, as well as going the other way around. People here are very, very scared from everything that's happening. Unfortunately, we're running out of time, and we only have a few more minutes left. So I do, unfortunately, we will not be able to open up for questions, but if our esteemed panelists can stay a few more minutes afterwards and you'd like to approach them with a question. I do want to end with a question that I think we all have in our minds is, what can we do, right? You are here today. You each spoke so passionately about what you're doing. How can we help you? And how can we help Israelis, and specifically, I think, Israeli women in their efforts of rebuilding, and their efforts of being resilient, and their efforts of advocating for other women? What can we do? Anat, if you'd like to start.
Yeah, I can try. Well, I think like the 2 main trajectories, or I don't know, campaigns that I'm personally most invested in right now is first the campaign to bring home the hostages. We've been lucky enough to have 3 of our hostages from the kibbutz come home in the last few days, which has been amazing, but we still have two of the men are still there. One is the husband of a woman who came back, and the other is the son of a woman who came back. There's still so many people there, and we can't give up, and we have to keep fighting. And I think the more and more people voice, this call for returning the hostages. So I'm sure you are already a part of it, but I think we really, really, really need international support for this campaign. Really, these are, sons and brothers and husbands and fathers, and it's unimaginable what they're going through. And we need them home. They have to come back. And of course, we're in the hope building business now. And we as leaders it's our duty to keep this vision of a future of returning home and rebuilding for our communities. It's a great responsibility to carry on our shoulders, but we do it because this is what we need to do right now. You can take part, I guess, and become partners of this project. I have to say, on the personal level, the thing that's been most comforting for me throughout these last 2 months is just we've had so many people just come visit us and just sit with us and say, "You're not alone. We're together. It hasn't just happened to you. It happened to all of us." And I feel the same way. Like we came here yesterday, as we were saying. And this feeling of being one, it's so empowering. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. It's the community, right? The resilience of our community. Thank you so much. And I think I do want to and I do want to also hear, but I do want to say something just to point out the returning, right? That a lot of the kibbutzim are planning on returning to their land, to the Gaza envelope, and rebuilding. And I think this is something just so hopeful. So thank you for sharing that. Kochav, a few last words. I know. Do you want to go to Tal first? And maybe
I cry only a few times a day. So, okay. So your question was, what
can we do? How can we help?
What can you do? First of all, I want to say that you also need to rebuild. You also need to take care of yourselves, take care of your communities. I know you care so much about us in Israel, but I want to say that I see you as well. We see you as well. We see your fear and your anxiety, and I feel like, as I said, we've all been traumatized, and I think your strength is also important for us. So that's something I wanted to share. Building relationships. I think I lived here in the United States for 5 years, but I'm in touch with my Israeli friends. And I feel like we need to build strong relationships that are different now among us. Among Israelis and Jews that are not about, even that I'm meeting a lot of important people with a lot of money. I wanted their friendship. I feel like we have to put the money aside because it can't be, even though it's important, we have to start from somewhere else this time. We have to start from somewhere else. We need to find the connection between us, our Jewish identity. Just as a thought that I had coming here, and we need your help as women leaders in Israel. We've seen the lowest rate of representation of women in decision making in the past year. And it's not political. I'm not even saying political. It's just every position. I'm not only talking about the parliament. I'm talking about every senior position in the government is held by men. Many laws that really secure the very basic notion of equality in decision making in Israel were just ignored. simply ignored. And I headed a national commission on gender mainstreaming in times of emergencies, and I was involved in such important.
We didn't even talk about the protest movement and how it moved and the
No,
effects
not
of
even the
politics. And we can continue on
Yes,
for
yes.
hours. Like,
No,
how
no.
long do you guys have? When do you have to go home?
No,
A different panel.
No problem. I just want to say I wrote the national report that was adopted in the most important historic government resolution. Tal was with me in this process, and we had many hopes. So I want to say that we need you to also push for women's leadership, and not only in words. We need legislation that ensures and puts mechanisms that dictate equal positions, even with religious. We were just very tolerant for religious parties, just saying that for decades since the establishment of Israel, they're not nominating any women. And so we feel like very hopeless in Israel. We feel hopeless because we're fighting for decades. We had the biggest protest movement just to have voice. We were the most affected, and we don't have a voice.
And we come in and clean up the messes.
Exactly. Every single day. And I saw the leaders of the Jewish community here telling us how much money they spent to help us, and it's amazing. But we can't pour more money on conflict and emergencies. I'm sorry. We can't. We have to put conditions to the government and to get women in decision-making positions as soon as possible. The government is functioning without women at the moment. No women in the cabinet. No, and it's crazy because they are really unexperienced men. No one questions their ability to be there, but we have these commanders. I personally am involved in the networks of women that have held senior position in national security national agencies in Israel. They're not even considered. And I want to tell you about, it's crazy. Can I say something else?
I think
No?
we are running out of time. So if Tal can also share, just because we want to make sure we hear from everyone. And then we will say goodbye, and we have to unfortunately close, but hopefully we can hear. And I think, Kochav, just thank you. We can see your passion, and we can see how important it is. And I wish, and hopefully we can have you come again, and we can talk more about different
I'll come
things.
whenever you want.
Get them back. There we go. And so sorry, but we do want to hear Tal a bit.
I want to say thank you for your support. I want to say that the woman leadership is a very important in this time. I want to say that we feel your support in Israel, and where we are now, it's a very strong, and this is all what I say, that you support us. It's very, very strong and very happiness for us. We say happiness, it's okay? Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
we can translate happiness.
Can I just say
Happiness.
that it would be wonderful if you can follow our work on Twitter and Facebook.
Yes,
I'm sharing all the
yes.
information. I have
Please,
a WhatsApp
please.
group
Yeah.
with hundreds now, thousands. I don't know.
Please do. I do want to respect our times, and thank you so much to our amazing panelists. Really, each one doing so much and deserving of so much. Yes, and thank you for coming, thank you for joining. Please continue to listen and hear out for our programming. We're hoping each one of you will return, and we'll have more programs and more conversations. Thank you all, and have a great night.